Welcome to the Global Investor Podcast, a show that focuses on helping foreign investors enter the lucrative U.S. real estate market. Host Charles Carillo combines decades of real estate investing experience with a professional background in international banking to interview experts in all areas of U.S. real estate investing. Now, here's your host, Charles Carillo.
Do you have money sitting in the stock market and you're worried about it? Or worse, you have money sitting at the bank, not keeping up with inflation? My name is Charles Carillo, founder and managing partner of Harborside Partners. And since 2006, I've been investing my money and my family's money into income-producing properties. These are real assets, real properties with real addresses that produce real cash flow. At Harborside Partners, we provide passive investors who love real estate with a turnkey investing solution. If you want to put your money to work in real estate but can't find deals, don't have the time to get funding, and the last thing that productive people want to do is manage real estate. We find the deals, we fund the deals, and we manage the tenants, the termites, and the properties. Partner with us at investwithharborside.com. That's investwithharborside.com. Go to investwithharborside.com. If you love real estate, you like the idea of passive income, and believe that income-producing properties will appreciate over time, go to investwithharborside.com. That's investwithharborside.com. Welcome to another episode of the Global Investors Podcast. I'm your host, Charles Carillo. Today we have Julie Holly. She's invested in single-family homes, house hacks, and multifamily properties, both passively and actively. Holly is also a podcast host and a high-performance coach. So thank you so much for being on the show, Julie.
Oh, I am so grateful. I'm grateful for a great pre-conversation, and I'm just going to say it. I'm grateful for a restart. Don't we all need restarts every once in a while? And here in the middle of trying to record, I have all this stuff pinging up on my computer. So you're one of the most gracious podcast hosts ever.
Thank you. So Julie, give us a little background on yourself, both personally and professionally, prior to being involved in real estate investing.
Yeah, well, let's go personal first, because that influenced my life in a really tremendous way. I am one of 4 kids, and I have 3 older brothers. It's a really interesting fact to know about somebody. I always say that explains a lot about like who I became in the world, right? I'm very adventurous, and being the bottom of the pack, it's like, oh, I was just used to being around the guys and wanting to do more of those extreme sports. That was cool back in the 90s, right? Extreme sports. And so I spent a lot of time like that. I'm just going to do a fast forward on that, how much that served me as I went into the multifamily space, because when I initially went into the space, it was, the number of women were significantly less than the number of men. And so just like having that comfort was like, and just being comfortable communicating with all people was just like, really, I think advantageous. So that's just like one of those things I usually don't share on podcasts. I think this is the only podcast I've ever actually spelled that out on, but it's a fun little personal fact to throw in there. But on the professional side, although I was raised in real estate, and that was what I was around, it was residential sales, and it was a roller coaster. And I saw, oh my gosh, I think real estate's great. I love Architectural Digest, and I'm 12 years old. However, I don't think I would ever want the lack of financial stability in my life. My mom was a school teacher, and I'm like, I love kids. I can contribute to the world. I'll have a stable income. And then guess what? I will have this pension at the end. However, what happens? You think I'm safe. I work for the government. I'm a school teacher. I'm not going to get laid off. Now, I didn't get laid off, but they handed out pink slips. And I was just like, 2 people away from having a pink slip. And that sobered me up at the age of 25 really fast. At that moment, I realized someone else is actually in control of my future. And that someone isn't me. I'm spending my time and I'm investing my time in this career, but I could get laid off. Something could happen. And so I started realizing I need to have kind of what a lot of people will call plan B. And that's how I initially got into real estate investing.
Awesome. So why did you choose like real estate as your investment vehicle? There's so many other ways of, other businesses and other avenues to make money.
Invest in what you know. invest in what makes sense, right? So even then, because I was around real estate, albeit residential real estate, my dad taught me about appreciation. He had this analogy with an escalator, and he's like, you buy here, and it's like taking the escalator at the mall, and it just goes up over time. And he had a lot of really fun analogies. And so although he wasn't himself investing in real estate, he was teaching me just the principles of owning real estate. And so that made a lot of sense to me. When I looked at Wall Street, it didn't make sense to me. I mean, I had, little bits in Wall Street by nature of how my job was structured and stuff, in past 401ks and having a financial planner take care of those. But I didn't understand how it actually worked. And let's face it, I can say this because it's me. I'm a woman. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I was a teacher. I'm pretty sure I'm the most qualified control freak there is. And so, and you can laugh, everybody should be laughing at that, because we all know that there are certain dispositions that want more control. And I realized, like, I have no control over Wall Street. I don't get a say in the boardroom. I don't get to decide what gets sold. I get a piece of paper. You don't even get a piece of paper anymore, right? It's just a little number electronically. And I really like something that's tangible, where I have a voice and I have influence. And so even as a passive investor, I was messaging earlier with, one of the GP members on a passive investment, because I'm just curious about something taking place. It's fun. He knows I'm not barking up his tree, to just like, I'm not being a cranky investor. I'm a curious investor. And so at least I have some level of, I can talk to somebody who is a decision maker. Like, I can't do that when I'm talking about Wall Street. And so that's really what led me into the whole, let me get into real estate as an investment vehicle.
Oh, that's great. That's a fantastic journey. And when you got in, what was kind of like your first real estate investment? What were you doing to start?
Well, the first investment was a single family home, and that was actually just intended to be my own personal residence. It was absolutely disgusting. The toilet was literally sinking into the subfloor, and there was mouse feces around the perimeter of the living room carpet. There were cobwebs in this beautiful turned out to be beautiful, but there are cobwebs stringing across it. It was this 1938 vintage home, and not a bad area, not the best area. It was gentrifying. So I got to help gentrify that. One shop vac stuck at a time, right? But in that process, I was single. And so I learned, didn't have a name. Brandon Turner coined it, right? Probably with house hacking. And next thing you know, I'm like, I could rent out that other room. The house is gorgeous now. I can rent out the other room and offset my income, because I'm a school teacher and I don't make a ton of money and I want to go have some fun. So that was that first awakening and that first aha of, this is cool. I want to do more.
Yeah, house hacking is a great way to get in. That's how I started as well. And with a 3-family, not a single family, but it's definitely one of the best ways of getting involved in real estate investing. And if you learning the business as well.
Yeah. And you get to learn about being a landlord in a different way. I mean, like, you're still collecting funds. I would definitely, and I've spoken to a lot of new people breaking into investing, and that is the guidance I give. I guess I'm talking to one of the coolest young adults ever, just about ready to get married. And we're talking, about what's the best investment path. And I just encourage him, like, hey, buy a small multifamily, the two of you. And we kind of laid out a plan, because it's such a gentle way of getting in, and it's something that you can build on, and it's very strategic.
Yeah. The other thing with it too is that when you move out at some point, when I moved out into a single family house from House Hack, it was just like, oh, it's very easy. You just renting out one unit, and that's it. You're all set. It's not like a huge thing of, I have to sell this, I have to do this, I have to do all this other work. And so that was very nice too. And you could, and if you are like moving out in 2009, well, you don't have to sell it. You can just rent it out and then sell it hopefully in 2021. But
well, part of that strategy, just for some people listening, depending on where you're at in life, I'm not a CPA, I'm not consulting you on taxes, but for some people that might be wanting, starting a family of some sorts, right? I mean, whatever your situation is, if you have a small multi that you own, that you manage, and somebody wants to stay at home with kids or watch TV, I don't know what it is, but as long as that person is managing that asset and that is their quote full-time job, they can be the real estate professional. And now all of your passive income can now be used or passive depreciation can be used in very different ways, very strategic. So there's a lot of strategy in, hey, if I have a small multi in my portfolio, I'd never buy single family, again, right? But small multi is really strategic.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So you made the transition from residential investing to commercial multifamily, and what really fueled that decision when you made it?
Okay, so that's a slam dunk, no brainer. One door, one unit, and everything on a single family home hinges off of having one resident living in that house. All of your income can be wiped out by one single, not even a catastrophe, right? Oh my gosh, we've got to put a whole new fence up around the perimeter. That's expensive when you're thinking about the income generated off of a single family. Although you can have reserves, and we had reserves, it just felt so vulnerable. I'm like, I want something that feels safer and is more predictable. And in that quest to find that, I discovered apartment syndication. And it was like, how did I not know about this? I mean, seriously, I was just shocked. Like, how did I have to wait so long in life to even learn about this? There are lots of reasons why most people don't know about it, which we won't go into. However, in the apartment syndication space, it just made so much sense. I'm like, great. Even if I have, say, an 8-plex or a 10-plex, even then, let's go with easy numbers, 10. I have one person move out. Well, I'm already factoring that vacancy, that little natural turnover. I'm already factoring that into everything that the business plan. So I really love the business plan and the stability and the structure of the apartment space. So that really lured me in because I'm like, great, safe, stable, predictable. It has a historical pattern that we can look to. We can look at the trends, and we can look at rent trends, and we can look at market trends, and we can invest in areas where I always say, and live where you want to live, invest where it makes sense. I'm not investing in my little tiny town of 2,500 on the Canadian border, but I'm investing in 5 other states because it makes SENSE sense and CENTS sense both ways. So that's my nutshell on that.
With multifamily syndications, when you started getting into it and getting into larger stuff and you're raising money and all this kind of stuff, when you started in multifamily syndications, did you start as a passive investor or did you start as a general partner?
I am a firm believer in beginning as a passive investor. Ooh, I might get some tomatoes thrown at me, virtual ones and across the airwaves. But, honestly, for me, Charles, that was I have some very strong personal convictions on how I want to go about my investment journey. And I don't want to ask people to do things that I have not done or am not willing to do or don't have the capacity to do. And so beginning as a limited partner, knowing that my ultimate goal is to serve and support people in growing their portfolios, right? And so I need to know what that feels like. And if I haven't had that feeling of, well, golly, how well do I know these people? I mean, like, I trust them, but I'm wiring all this money. How do I know that this isn't going to some offshore account, right? There are a lot of feelings that people go through when they are passive investing, even for the 3rd or 4th or 5th time. And so I really believed that it was imperative that if I was going to receive those type of funds in the future, I need to have that experience beneath me. And I also really wanted to see, we invested with a very strong team. And so I knew that I could have some good parameters. Oh, this is how people do this well. this is maybe a guideline or a standard that I can have of sorts versus trying to just figure it out on my own.
Interesting. So tell us about your first deal as a general partner. When you actually made the leap, you're a passive investor, now you're a general partner. What role did you kind of pick up? Like, what did you specialize in? What do you specialize in now when you're doing these deals? And tell us a little bit about that deal.
Yeah, no, that was a deal that it was a Christmas present, really. So I was able, to join forces and link arms with the team and collaborating. I am very focused on investors. I know that a lot of people like to cloak and dance around capital raising, and they want to call themselves investor relations, but that really is my impetus. If you go to the content I create, it is all very focused on educating, go figure, past teacher, educating people, supporting people. And really that is that investor relations side of things. So that's how I came into that, in that general partnership. That was my role. That is my role. It's 120 units in Des Moines, Iowa. It was just fantastic. I mentioned to you off air, I'm very particular about partners, and I have a rule. And again, I told you, I did a blog post on this recently. It's like, I just have some different ways of going about things, and they're not conventional. They're not really how people are doing it in the industry, but it's aligned with my philosophy. And that is, hey, I'm going to know this person for at least a year before I partner with this person. I'm probably going to have collaborated on a podcast or creating some other type of content. I want to see how they respond. What's their communication style? Just really breaking bread, getting to know people is so imperative. So I love the partnership on that. It's just a fantastic partnership. It's even better that we're outperforming what we projected. So I'm like, that's always icing on the cake. But again, that goes with how are you selecting and choosing the people you're partnered with, and knowing the philosophy and the alignment there. I'm an under promise, over deliver kind of person, and as are they. So
that's great. It's a great match. So about that deal, tell us about some of the hurdles that you and your team had to overcome during it, because every deal has some. So what you guys have to do? And I imagine you had even more because it was your first deal as a GP, and I know how that goes.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. And so in that one, we had the biggest hurdle was some of the financing on it. We had someone involved. And I'm going to be delicate with how I go about saying this, right? Discretion is key. It is a small space. And so we had some capital that was committed, a substantial amount of capital that was committed to the deal. And there was a change of mind, a change of heart. And so somewhat last minute, there's a lot of scrambling and a lot of extensions as new alliances and new partner, not partnerships, but okay, how do we fill in this substantial gap that we now have? And so honestly, that was a significant hurdle. The person that ran point really I cannot take credit for building that bridge and filling in that gap, but the person that ultimately put that together was on the phone constantly, relying upon the network, right? We all have our networks. We all have strong networks. And those networks, they're really imperative when you find yourself in a situation like this. And ultimately, we were able to close. And that is such a fantastic deal, but it was very painful, particularly as we're trying to cross that finish line.
Yeah.
And when you're facing extensions, right? That's not fun.
No,
we got to get this done.
Yeah, everybody has the hurdles in their first deal. I always like asking about it because it's a common theme. So, but how it goes.
Can I add to that? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm cutting. I'm not feeling like I am cutting you off. I'm so embarrassed. Okay, so I will add to that is that because it was my first deal, and this is a caution I have to myself, right? And that caution is you're expecting it to close. And in the single family space, which, is people's most comfortable spot because they've probably already done single family, your close date is usually pretty much your close date. The close date on an apartment complex can be very different than the projected close date, depending on, there are so many different things that have to be aligned. And I did not understand that. I had already communicated to the investors, like, oh, we're closing, it's going to end. I'll tell you what, lesson learned, approximations when it comes to close dates are the most important thing to do, because managing those expectations is really critical. Nobody got mad at me, but I was frustrated with myself.
Yeah, especially if they're new investors and they don't know, they don't understand the whole process, because it is much different than your single family. And there's a lot less things that you have to do, or that are, let's say, that are happening with a single family residence or property versus a multifamily, between all the tenants, between lenders, between the whole 9 yards. So it's a daunting process. And, you really have to have a team and transaction coordinator there working with you, like in your team, to kind of really push everything past the line. So,
yeah.
But so we met about a year ago at a networking event, and, to do a deal as a general partner, no matter what your role is, I mean, it takes a lot of networking. So how do you effectively network, Julie? And, how do you find people, whether they're passive or general partners, or just out there finding people that you might be able to work with in the future?
Going to events is really critical. If you are listening and you're not going to at least 2 events a year, you are missing out. And really, that changes as you go to events. So I always set an intention anytime I go to an event, like, what is it that I want to contribute at this event? And what is it that I want to build and grow while I'm here at this event? And having those clear intentions is really critical. And so sometimes it might be, okay, I'm not here to make, I went to an event. I went to Joe Fairless's best ever event, which is absolutely fantastic, last February or earlier this year. And at that event, I actually had a specific intention of deepening relationships, of meeting some people that I've been connected with in person for the first time, setting aside time to actually have more meaningful, substantial conversations, which now I'm actually partnered with one of those people that I invested in, right? Like, I took that time. We'd already, known each other for a long time, but now we've met in person. Now we've had time set aside where we could talk on a more substantial way. Also, the social platforms is really critical. I don't think like people want to say, oh, it's superficial or what, but honestly, a lot of my very best relationships have begun over on LinkedIn, just through conversation, through looking at people. How are they showing up? I don't know. Maybe it's an assistant. Let me get to know that person. Let me have that phone call with them and see if their posts are matching that conversation. They're congruent.
Interesting. Yeah. Doing your due diligence prior on social media and meeting people on social media. Social media is a great way of obviously being connected to people, and then also following what people are doing. And then you kind of can go from there and see who you want to work with, and people can really learn a lot about companies and people via that. So that's awesome. So one thing when I was doing some research for this episode, there was a thing that you call it's the mindset behind success. So can you kind of go into that a little bit more and let our audience know what that is?
Right. Well, most of us have, I will always quote a book because I have a book club. Right now we're reading Ed Milet's The Power of One More. That's a great book. All that to say, he has this great analogy, and I'm going to share this, and it's not mine. I always give people credit. Notice I gave my partner credit on like filling in the gap. I will never take credit if it's not mine. Right. So he has this concept of like, we're always going to come down to whatever our thermostat is, right? Whatever our baseline is. And so that mindset for success really hinges upon a similar principle, right? Is that if we can't visualize, if we can't see where we want to go as a person, we're always going to stay in the same position and everything. And so taking the time to invest in cultivating a vision. Now, most people are hung up on why. Oh, you got to know your why. Why do you have to know your why? What's the purpose of your why? So the questions like who, what, when, where, why, how, those questions should actually be beneath your vision. Your vision is like the overarching theme. And when we have clarity on our vision and what we want to cultivate in our lives, in the different facets of our life, right? Whatever we do, the answer to the why is going to be aligned to something bigger than that. And that will keep us going and just kind of keeping a cadence towards that, which will lead to a more meaningful, like a more satisfied, more fulfilled life ultimately.
Interesting. Yeah. Very, very interesting. Do you use that with your high performance coaching?
I do. Yeah. Everything is tied to vision. If we don't have a clarity surrounding our vision, then we will lack that motivation. There is no necessity to get anything done, to take action, because we don't really know why. And like, I'm sure everybody can relate to this. I'm sure you're going to love this. Like the moment, if we find that moment in our day where we're kind of stalling out and not maintaining that momentum, it means that we really more than likely don't know what we're doing or why we're doing it. And so when we have clarity as to this is why I'm on this podcast with you, or this is why I'm sending this email. And when we have that and it's aligned to our greater vision, we will maintain that momentum necessary.
Oh, that's great. So Julie, as we're like wrapping up here, I had a couple questions we ask all of our guests. And number one is, what are common mistakes you see other real estate investors make, or real estate investors in general? Could be you, could be other people.
I would say I will give myself this one. I haven't made this mistake, and we've talked about it throughout this episode, and that is partnering. I see a lot of people partnering, and I will talk to people and be like, wow, we should consider partnering. If I meet you at an event, I might say that if I like you. It doesn't mean I'm partnering with you tomorrow. It means it starts a year-long tab. Like, okay, great. Maybe in a year we can partner. Let's see if we stay in touch. Let's see how that goes. Right. I see a lot of people partnering very quickly. And a lot of people, and you and I touched on this earlier, is that, oh, well, initially, like I just got into the deal. We closed the deal. Okay. That's the easy part. Closing the deal, it seems really hard. That's the easy part. Now you've got to perform on that for the next X amount of years. You've got to show up every single day after that. So really, I see a lot of the partnership is really probably the biggest thing, but I'm going to throw a second item in there. And that is a lot of people staying in the single family space or staying in a space where they have full control because maybe like me, they like that level of control, but I like to give the control away and I like to delegate. And it's really, you can go further faster if you are collaborating with others, either as limited partners or amongst a general partnership.
Interesting. What do you think are the main factors that have contributed to your success over the years?
Straight up dogged determination. No kidding. Right. No, I'm very flexible and adaptable. And I think that has served me well. Don't get hung up on something that has happened in the past. Failure is not failure. Failure is just feedback that you are getting. It didn't work out. Okay. That's not the end of the world. You still have a lifetime ahead of you. So what are you doing with that feedback so that you can make a better decision in the future? So I think, having a strong mindset is really critical. A lot of times we spend time having a negative narrative and this dialogue because we are built that way as humans. We are more fight or flight. That's how we stay alive. And so if we can shift that, and instead of feeding that part of our brain, but feeding not the, oh, what if this goes wrong? Or, oh my gosh, I totally messed up, and going down a negative path, we could say, okay, well, what if this works out? Or, okay, that I totally screwed up, but how am I going to work on this in the future?
Interesting. So how can our listeners learn more about you and your business, Julie?
Oh, well, I love you ask, and I appreciate that. Go connect up. If you like the mindset elements, go listen to the Conscious Investor podcast. We have a mindset episode on Mondays, and someone fantastic, Charles, will be on the podcast soon, I'm sure. So anyhow, and then you get to listen to professionals talking about their journeys and even about their mindset. It's a very different take on investing because it is very much more the who and the vision component of it, which is it's great to have role models like that. And then head to julieholly.com if you want to schedule a time to talk.
Great. Well, I will put links to your social media and then also to your website in the show notes. And I want to thank you for coming on today and looking forward to meeting up with you and connecting with you at our next networking event.
Awesome. Me too. Thanks so much.
Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Hi guys, it's Charles from the Global Investors Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you're interested in getting involved with real estate but you don't know where to begin, set up a free 30-minute strategy call with me at schedulecharles.com. That's schedulecharles.com. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Global Investor Podcast. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play to get new weekly episodes. For more resources and to receive our newsletter, please visit globalinvestorpodcast.com. And don't forget to join us next week for another episode.
Nothing in this episode should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Any investment opportunities mentioned on this podcast are limited to accredited investors. Any investments will only be made with proper disclosure, subscription documentation, and are subject to all applicable laws. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Syndication Superstars, LLC exclusively.